I hope there are questions. They always add a great dimension to this class. Does anyone have a question?
Stuart, I have a question, Bob Sink.
Yes, Bob.
It seems that there is yet a lot of turmoil going on in our outside world, in our physical world. Where is that not a concern in our inner work?
Well, look, it is our concern, Bob. First of all, people suffer like crazy in this world. We have to have empathy. We have to have compassion for them, which means that we have to build a system inside that enables us to look past all of the craziness of life to that place in another human being where there's Godhead, where there's God, the seed of God. And we have to have compassion for people, that truly lack consciousness. I mean, it's like that thing in King Lear where the mad is leading the blind at the edge of the white cliffs of Dover in the middle of a storm. I mean, this is what goes on in the world. We have to be bigger than that. We also have to understand in a really profound way that this is the way the world has been since the beginning of time. Look at the suffering that just went on, say, in the 20th century, World War II, depressions, wars, World War I. I mean, incredible millions of people were slaughtered. I mean, I can't imagine what CNN or any of these news, cable news channels would do with those kind of things today. So this has been going on forever. And it's an incredible education for all of us. Can we transform ourselves inside? To have compassion, to have love, to live with joy, to be happy people. And frankly, I hate to just say some hard truths, that madness in the external world is never going to change. Because the only way it's going to change is if people work on themselves and they learn to open their hearts. They learn what it is to have love, to be happy people. Then the world will change. But you have, as I've said many times, 8 billion people living in this world. And in this class, there's maybe a little over 20 people. Not saying that I'm the teacher for the world, I'm not. But there are many teachers who are teaching very similar things to what I teach. So until people change, till people learn to live with love, with their hearts open, this is the world we have. And you get swept away in it, you get angry, you get obsessed with it, or you learn how to transform your inner life, and find that joy and that love. And that joy and that love will attract people that want that level of life. And they can be nurtured. They can be trained. They can be given, an incredible depth of teaching that will transform the suffering and pain inside them into an open heart. I don't know how else to put it. Otherwise, it's truly the mad leading the blind in a storm. It's a mad world we live in. But do we learn anything from it? Do we grow because of it? Do we realize that the only way to change this world is to change ourselves? To stop getting swept away in all the conflict and polarity of life? and to really live here with love, with happiness, with joy. It's the ultimate goal of all humanity anyway. To be happy people. I mean, look, years ago, I used to study philosophy a lot when I was younger, and all these philosophers, Plato, Aristotle, Spinoza, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, they all came to the conclusion that the ultimate goal of all humanity is to be happy. And I was 20 years old, and I read this, and I looked out at this insane world I was living in, said, what the fuck are they talking about? So I said to myself, and ultimately, after years of doing it, it's true. It's the ultimate goal of all of life. And the evolution of the soul is into a state of joy and happiness and one with God. But people need training. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be so insane. They need to learn how to do it. I used to go for about maybe a couple of months, once a week, I would go to this poetry group, and people would read their poems. And I finally got a little fed up with it because all the poems were about all the bullshit of life. And when I was younger, I really wrote poetry believing that poems were about finding the beautiful, finding the metaphysical, finding the transcendental. Art was about that. Finding that which transcended the madness of the world, or even like Monk, turning the madness into the world into something extraordinary, something beyond human comprehension. And I left this group because people just rumbling on and on about platitudes and day-to-day living and how unhappy they are and how crazy the world is, and never making an effort to go deep enough to find, even in their poetry, something beautiful, something divine. And I said, the other thing is easy, it's right on the surface, but to plummet the internal workings of oneself and find what is beautiful, what is transcendent, what is metaphysical, it's like, like poet Keats, truth is beauty and beauty is truth. That's all you need to know, all you need ever to know. It's true. But in order to find that level of comprehension, people have to plummet the depths of their inner being. And I finally left that group because it was all on the surface. It's just people mumbling about life. And I said, no, this is not what I'm interested in. And it's the same way in our work. We have to plummet the depths of our being. We have to use the craft of meditation, to dig up all of those treasures that are hidden behind hindrances. They're dammed up behind internal fortresses and walls that are inside each and every one of us. Instead of finding the beauty, but you can't find the beauty in the objective world unless you find it in yourself. And that's what this work is all about. Finding that beauty, finding that depth in oneself. Once you find that, what emanates from you is passion, service in the world, helping, living your life on a totally different level. And then all of this conflict. I mean, 1 week I read 1 week it's, the classified things at Mar-a-Lago. Now the classified things in what's his name's house? Who's our president? Biden's house. It's unbelievable, It's unbelievable. It's all the madness of the world. And at the end, it's all a fart in a hurricane, it all amounts to nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, people can barely remember what they had for breakfast in the morning, Who's going to remember what took place in, August 5th, 2006? And I'm sure the media was full of all kinds of drama on August 5th, 2006. Who remembers? What we have to deal with is the present moment of our lives. And the present moment of one's life will be full of conflict and fear and insecurity, if they don't find that truth and that beauty inside themselves. That's the only way I've learned to deal with what you asked. I mean that. I don't know how else, because I can't remember a day in my life when this place hasn't been crazy. I can't. I've run ashrams, and basically they were miniature insane asylums, ashrams. People that came with all their problems hiding out from the world. I mean it. And I ran ashrams and, centers and, I got so tired of it. I said, no, life has to have a deeper meaning than this. So there are no utopias and paradise on earth. There's only utopia and paradise inside each and every one of us. And we have to do the work in ourselves to tap that kind of energy, which means getting free of all the encumbrances, transforming the suffering into an open heart, into chi, into balance, to quiet mind. So it's not a matter, you're welcome, Bob. It's not a matter of changing the world. It's a matter of changing oneself, fixing oneself, transforming all of the chaos in oneself into spiritual life. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, look, I've always been a big patron of the arts. Look, I lived in the art world for years. That was my business, was my livelihood. And I never could understand the manifestation. Maybe I don't see it right of art today, because it just seems like it reflects all the superficiality, all the chaos, all the unhappiness of the world without transforming it into something beautiful, into something magical. And we have to transform ourselves into something magical, something beautiful. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I was in Lawrence for actually quite a long time, a couple of weeks. And there's art there that is truly magical and beautiful. And to see all of that stuff, when people really, their art creations were in the service of God, were in the service of spirit. The buildings they built, the structures they built were in the service of spirit, the architecture, the music, the art, everything was in the service of spirit. And the things that came out of them was so profound, so beautiful. I mean, to see Donatello and Michelangelo and Raffaello and all these artists producing magical works that transcended the ordinary. But all of it was in service of God. Now everything is in service of money, economics. Art has become commodities. Books have become commodities. Or, everything is a commodity. How much money can it bring? And the creation is on that level. Which doesn't mean we have to live that way, because each and every one of us is a work of art. And do we want to be a commodity? Do we want to be, some piece of material stuff that is being bought and sold in the world? Or do we want to find that truth in ourselves, that beauty inside ourselves, that magical thing that really gives each day, a remarkable reason to be alive? To be able to laugh, to have fun, and to get to that place where truth is beauty, beauty, truth. That's all you need know and all you need ever know. And it's really a profound place. But that's inside every human being. And when people begin to tap that level inside themselves, understand they will not get swept away in the madness of the world. I mean, Nityananda, Rudy, people, these amazing people, I mean, it's one of thousands of people that have come down through history. Good question, Bo. Thank you. Very good question. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I mean, there was a statue in Florence by an artist named Donatello, a sculptor, of the Mary Magdalene. Is something I will never forget. It was so extraordinary. Probably can go on Google and Donatello, Mary Magdalene, and it's an unbelievable thing. Unbelievable work of art, capturing every single level of life. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay. And don't forget that everything I talk about exists inside each and every one of us. And we have to use the gifts of God to get to that depth inside ourselves where we can completely, just be detached from the madness of the world. At the same time, we can live in the world. We can give Caesar his due. We can give Caesar his due with an open heart, saying, I'm grateful for the food I'm able to buy in this grocery store. I'm grateful for the rent or the mortgage payment I have to make. gives me a place to live. You know, and the diseases do, but we have to learn how to do all that with our hearts open, with love. And the only way we can learn that is to find it inside ourselves, transform chaos, the difficulty, the suffering into love, into an open heart. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? Okay, God bless you all. And thank you for being in my life. And there'll be a class on Sunday. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart. Good night.